Thought I was gonna start from nothing and just work my way up. I was ready to just like grind.
I knew like something had to change, and then we changed the artist name and the rest is history.
I still feel like somebody could wake me up right now and like it was all like, oh, that was a nice dream, you know? Like
From his very first release in 2022, Mau exploded on the scene with his song Drugs From Amsterdam. It seemed as though out of nowhere he went from 0 to 100, touring across the world and selling out venues. In all reality, Mau had been creating music and playing shows for a lot longer than you would have imagined. In this video, we dive into the come up from Maurice West to now Mau and how his rebrand completely changed his career.
My face don't know where I am, cause I got my drugs from Amsterdam.
Mau, born Maurice Westveen, grew up in the city of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. In his formative years, Mau was surrounded by music from a young age, with both of his parents being musicians.
My dad was a producer too and an arranger, so he would make like the sheet music for orchestras, and he did this in the entire lower floor of our house, which was a recording studio with every instrument that you could imagine. And my mom was a singer, so there was always like music around us.
Growing up in the Netherlands, Mau was surrounded by electronic music from a young age. He first got into electronic music at the age of 14, being fascinated by the after movies of Tomorrowland and Ultra and the come up of Martin Garrix.
Martin Garrix just really opened up the new boy dream for people my age. So first it was like, you want to be a soccer player, and now it was like, all the boys want to be a DJ.
I think I got into dance music when the Tomorrowland and the Ultra after movies were like, you were cool if you knew about the after movies.
When Maurice was an early teenager, he began learning to produce music on GarageBand, although at the time he said he wanted to be a comedian or a camera operator.
At first, I wanted to be a comedian, so like I wanted to be on stage telling jokes, and then I wanted to become a cameraman. I wanted to be behind the really big camera that's at like TV shows, just like pointing that thing.
I remember actually that I wanted to be a camera guy for some weird reason. Not a camera guy like artistically, but just like for TV and stuff. You have this app on every Mac computer, it's GarageBand. I was always messing around with that. Then suddenly I was like, maybe I should step it up a notch, try something more professional. When I started doing that, I was like, okay, I really want to do this. That was about the age of 14.
He first got into the electronic music scene by learning Photoshop and began creating posters for festivals in Amsterdam.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty good at Photoshop. I used to design artworks for festivals. So like the flyer is what I used to design. The guy knew that I was making music. Then he was like, hey, I know you DJ. Don't you want to play at the festival?
Being inspired by Martin Garrix, he followed in his footsteps, creating Big Room House. And with his father's gear, he was able to get one of his first releases on Spinnin' Records' talent pool, and even ended up on the Spinnin' Records YouTube channel. He continued to refine his style and experiment with progressive house and big room. His next single, Medusa, would gain support from artist W&W and would land him on Armin van Buuren's Armada Records. Then, just a year after Formula 1 remix competition for the hardstyle artist Headhunters. But just as Maurice was seeing success in his music, in August of 2015, his father would sadly pass away. Just before his dad passed, Maurice assured him that one day he would hang a plaque next to his, and he would be successful in music.
He taught me a lot about music. It's sad he passed away when I was 18, but he did get to see me producing music, and he saw the first couple DJs support my music. He just wanted to know that I was actually gonna do this. So I'm happy you got to see that, and he's just with me, you know, and it's like inside of me to get his legacy to live on.
Not letting this hold him back, he doubled down. He began playing at soccer clubs and weddings until 2015 at the age of 19, when he finally began getting on real lineups. With the backing of artist W&W, other big artists began playing his music like Armin van Buuren, Tiesto, Kashmir, Hardwell, and Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike. He began playing bigger shows, getting to tour in Asia, play at Tomorrowland, and even opened in Ultra Miami in 2018, playing some of his hit tracks like a bootleg of I Will Survive and his remix of Rhythm of the Night. In 2019, he continued to release consistent big room and progressive house, playing across Europe. He began to experiment with other sounds, playing with techno and house music, though he had trouble with promoters not getting the music that they booked him for, and they would end his set early.
This sort of clash came into existence where I was doing shows as Maurice West. I had sort of found a new love for like playing, like DJing house music or like techno, and people were booking me still for like Maurice West. And then when I showed up, I was just playing like really underground stuff. It was difficult for promoters to pinpoint like, hey, we're booking this, what are we getting? The people that do my bookings also knew like the kind of lineups that I wanted to be on, but they told me that just would be really hard to sell. They can't put like a big EDM name in between guys like Solardo or Chris Lake or whoever.
I was playing and I was supposed to play 90 minutes and they were like, if the clock hits 60 minutes, you can leave.
Then as the world shut down, Maurice felt as though he could take a breath of fresh air and experiment for the first time. This new experimentation would be the key to his success.
I was really free and like careless, and there was no pressure. There was no one telling me like, we need a hit right now. There was no label, no shows, there was nothing. So I was completely just having fun and free and creative.
He continued playing big room and touring, although he continued to feel like the music he was creating wasn't fitting his current brand. His manager and others on his team began to convince him that the best thing he could do was rebrand and change his name. But he felt as though all the years of work he had put in previously would have been for nothing.
They came up with the solution to change my name. And at first I was like, oh no, we're not doing that's possible. I've been working on this for like 5 years or even more. It's like telling a mom to like break your kid's neck.
Then in 2022, he was finally convinced there would be no downside to a rebrand. But what would his new name be? Thanks to the help from a friend, he finally came up with an idea for a name using his childhood nickname.
It was first just going to be Mau, and then one of my genius friends said you should just add a P at the end because like my nickname was Maupie, but Maupie.
But before he switched to aliases, he had a few more songs he wanted to release as Maurice West.
I had just made 4 songs that were supposed to be really commercial and radio friendly, and my only goal was get radio airplay. None of those 4 songs did anything. And I told my manager, if not one of those 4 songs does something for me, I'm done.
After the bombing of his previous songs, he had little motivation for the future, and one night in London, he decided to test out one of his new songs. After seeing the crowd go wild to his new song, he posted it to his Instagram, and his DMs exploded after that. The song began being played across the world by DJs like A-Craze and John Summit. He knew he had to get the song out quickly, but he was still unaware of the hit he had on his hands.
The song got released. I was on a flight to Singapore by myself, and while being on the flight, the song got released, and I was just thinking like, it'd be really nice if on the first day I'd get like 100,000 streams on Spotify, which to me is insane. At the end of the day, like after 24 hours, it had like 220,000 streams. So I was like, how is this happening?
He released the song on August 19th of 2022 and immediately was thrown into the spotlight, being contacted for interviews, remixes, and headline spots at festivals. Within a few days of its release, it became #1 on Beatport, something he could have only dreamed about previously. Within a few weeks of its release, it had hit #4 on the global Spotify charts. It was in the top 10 in over 25 countries. He began being contacted by some of the biggest EDM artists in the world. He brought in the new year by playing his first show as Mau P in the US, and the crowd looked completely different from when he played Ultra Miami. Thanks to his previous experimentation into the tech house genre, he was already sitting on more songs he knew would be hits. He began teasing the release of his next song, Gimme That Bounce. He would officially release it January 27th of 2023, solidifying him as one of the biggest names in the tech house scene, with the song also becoming #1 on the Beatport Top 100. Before he knew it, he was selling out venues across the world, playing his first US tour in New York City, Miami, LA, and Las Vegas, and just about every big city across the US, leaving to play EDC Mexico. By the time the first phase of the tour was over, he was in so much disbelief, he would post to Instagram honoring his father and opening up about his previous struggles as an artist. In March of 2023, during the Miami Music Week, Mau won his first ever music awards. Not only one, but 2 EDMA awards for the House Song of the Year and Dance Song of the Year. In April of 2023, he would do an official remix for one of the biggest names in all of EDM. His remix of Miracle by Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding would release on April 21st. It's currently sitting at over 30 million streams on Spotify alone. At this point, his music was being played by just about everyone. Even bass artists like Zedstead would start playing Gimme That Bounce. The bookings didn't stop from there. He played from EDC Las Vegas to Tomorrowland, from Ibiza to Amsterdam Dance Event, returning home to consistently finish every song in his home studio.
I will always finish at home. I know exactly how stuff is supposed to sound in that room, like the acoustics, and I know my speakers, and I know what a mix is supposed to sound like. When Calvin Harris asked me to do a remix, I had to do it on the road. I flew back to Amsterdam. I was in Miami, like I had to, bring it home.
By July of 2023, he had fulfilled his dream he ensured his father, getting to hang a plaque next to his. At this point, he had released 4 songs. All 4 of them would receive more than 10 million plays on Spotify. By mid-July, Drugs From Amsterdam would reach over 100 million listens. In August of 2023, he returned to the same stage that he was asked to leave a year prior, but this time with no restrictions, and no one telling him that he had to get off for not playing enough of his music. The crowds at his sets were getting bigger and bigger throughout the year, even playing some of his Maurice West tracks as he played. In September, he released a remix for one of the biggest EDM supergroups, Swedish House Mafia. By the end of 2023, he had played across the globe in just about every big city in the US, Mexico, and across Europe, playing some of the biggest festivals in the world and some some of the most iconic nightclubs. He brought in the new year at the Countdown Festival at the same place he had played previously, but this time the crowd was even bigger than before, a full circle moment for him. He was even in disbelief when a few of his songs ended up being the most played track in the entire year. In late January, he had done tons of weekly mixes on his XXX radio, which was then picked up by Sirius XM to play on the SXM Electro channel, and just a few days later announced a residency at Wynn Las Vegas. By this point, he had built himself up a team of like-minded managers and artists to help him in his vision, bringing some of the best promotional content I've seen. In March, he got to play Brazil, then in April, he teamed up with Diplo at Coachella for a 3-hour headlining back-to-back set. By May of 2024, he returned to EDC, but this time to play the Kinetic Field, one of their biggest stages. That same month, he got to do an essential mix for BBC Radio. He spent June, July, and August flying from country to country, playing across the US and multiple European countries. Then in late August, he released his song Receipts with Diplo and Gunna. After that, he announced the start of his Baddest Behavior tour, a show concept he would bring across the US and Europe, debuting in New York City, playing to over 8,000 fans. By October of 2024, he expressed his gratitude in receiving not only 1, but 4 gold certification plaques and 1 platinum to sit next to his father's. Then shortly after would announce his last song of 2024, Murder, a track using a sample from Aini Kamoze's World of Reggae, a sample that had been used by Damian Marley in Welcome to Jamrock. That song would end up to be Mau's 5th song to reach #1 on the Beatport Top 100. Before the year ended, he spent December playing across Asia, in Japan, Thailand, and Indonesia, even dropping Cinema by Skrillex, a big change from his normal style, but playing homage to one of his original idols in the music scene. He brought in 2025, playing on New Year's Eve at the Forever Midnight Festival in Los Angeles. At the end of January, he announced another set of his Baddest Behavior shows. In February, he announced he would be continuing his residency in Wynn Las Vegas. At the end of February, thanks to his connections with Nervous Records, he was able to get a sample of Tame Impala cleared to officially release his song The Less I Know The Better.
I felt like it was such a big song already. I never really deemed it possible, and we would give it a try here and there. There was one guy, random person, who uploaded it, still had the CO2 blasting, and it had 1 million plays. And then I hit up my boy Andrew from Nervous Records. He got it done in 2 weeks.
That song would officially release on February 28th and reach #1 on the Billboard dance charts. In April, he would play a set at the Sahara tent at Coachella, while wearing his iconic shirt of his father playing 2 saxophones simultaneously, honoring his late father at the end of the set as well. During his Coachella set, he would premiere one of his newest songs to date at the time of recording, Tesla. In May, he would play at the Circuit Grounds in EDC Las Vegas, and shortly after EDC, he would announce the release of his song Like I Like It, currently sitting at over 17 million listens on Spotify alone. He would release that song as part of his Too Big for B-Sides EP, alongside People Talk, People Sing, his very first EP release as Mau P. He continued to announce dates for his Baddest Behavior tour, which was still actively going. In June of 2025, he started a residency at Ibiza, Spain, at the famous Pacha nightclub, and would play weekly from August till October. On August 8th, he would officially release his song Tesla, that he teased at Coachella. Later that month, he would put his entire Coachella set on his YouTube channel. He continued Baddest Behavior in New York City once again, and played one of his biggest headline shows to date during Baddest Behavior in LA, where he played to over 40,000 patrons. In November, Tesla would reach #1, again on the Billboard dance charts. Then a few days later, would headline the famous Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. In December of 2025, he would begin his announcements for his 2026 Baddest Behavior shows, with the first announcement being an open to close set in Miami on May 15th, 2026. Would also be announced in December of 2025, Mau P would end up to be the best-selling tech house artist on Beatport, holding not only the #1 song, but the #2 song as well. It is undeniable that Mau P's rebrand completely changed his career. From opening shows and getting a few 100,000 plays on his music, to headlining shows and getting hundreds of millions of plays on his tracks. It's impressive to say the least. The now tech house powerhouse has played in just about every continent and made a worldwide name for himself. There is no doubt his father would be undeniably impressed with the trajectory of his career. With room for experimentation and not being locked down to any genre, I am excited to see what other banger he will release next. If you like this video, you might also like my video on Disco Lines, or ABO. All of the editing, animation, scripting, voicing, and sound effects were all done by me. I would greatly appreciate it if you liked, commented, or subscribed on my channel. Comment down below more artists that you'd like to see me cover. This has been how rebranding changed Mau P's career.